markets. In Sittwe, only one enclave remained for Rohingya called Ongmingalar. Ongwin, like most here, was born and brought up in Sittwe.
We are the native of this country, you know. We're not the migrated people from Bangladesh.
Where can we go?
No, I do not want to. I will die here, ready to die. We are the people.
Rakhine nationalists dispute the Rohingyas' claims of abuse. They have another explanation as to why so many thousands have left their homes and possessions. For nearly 2 decades, this area has been cut off from the outside world. Ong Win believes the crisis has been triggered by the Rakhine Nationalist Party, the RNDP, and their leader, Dr. Among.
He is the only one person who, because he is the leader of the RNDP party, you know, he called our other RNDP party members from Tango, Pungnaju, and Rau. They all gathered here and started killing.
Do you think he's responsible for the killing?
Yes, he's the only one person for killing.
Min believes the crisis has been triggered by the Rakhine Nationalist Party, the RNDP, and their leader, Dr. Among. Min believes the crisis has been triggered by the Rakhine Nationalist Party, the RNDP, and their leader, Dr. Among. In July, Dr. Among and the RNDP believes the crisis has been triggered by the Rakhine Nationalist Party.
We ask your patience for just a moment while we sort out the technical issue here on the playback. Oh, all right. If anybody is actually in the room watching their live feed via their cell phone or portable device, if we could ask you to please go ahead and cut that. It may have been interfering with the signal that we're receiving here. Thank you so much for your understanding. If you get a chance, please take a look at the photo gallery over there on the far side of the hall to get a chance to educate. We're ready to go? All right, thank you so much. You direct your attention back to the screens now. Thank you. If anybody is actually in the room watching your live feed via their cell phone or portable device, if we could ask you to please go ahead and cut that. It may have been interfering with the signal that we're receiving here. Thank you so much for your understanding.
I can challenge him in front, face to face. I can prove him. Then I'm not lying the wall. You will take my picture and my interview to show the wall. I'm not lying the wall.
In July, Dr. Among and the RNDP released a statement demanding that Bengali people should be relocated to suitable places in order not to reside or mix with Rakhines.
Either Kotamari, since I don't have that Hantana. Uta will have that tar, but the Shino and I buy a Kango Marvella, and her body tell me all the Gulimari, a quarter Gulimari, there were in a quarter Gulimari, in Tinala, Tama, the public. Monitor the village. Lajaga, Horror, Lajago, on what the money for you. Mazata Lama, Billion, the
Monday afternoon, Nasaka border guards and police arrived.
The Tomba Faras, the Toma Girifalaye, Hokumote. Farag Girifala ba de Farag don't want Manshokol later of the village. Boroboro look to Rivelay. Dorivella Zoria ba de Sunrosada Silhita Doriu Letari Taradunji. Dunji ba de Bulisala
Villagers fled toward a nearby creek.
Calvara se ba de Guragura Basha called Bafo Fisivise Dunji Casuguli Haji. Kesu Halam Mazam Maria Faray, Gura Basha, Colabia, Halamaji, Gure Fonsejon Pujento, Arahalama Morigi. Guria Hay the Hindias and Moriaro, Pasha Urigi, Toy Tarbase, Latia, Mogoriora, Agotu, the Ottoman military
Sittwe is a scarred town. Most Rohingya, who once made up half the population, are no longer here. Thousands of homes were destroyed. While the overwhelming majority were Rohingya, many Rakhine were also made homeless. By late afternoon, several members of the Islam family had fled to the coastal village of Bogadia, just outside Sittwe. Mohammed told his niece that they should leave for Bangladesh.
بعد هر ماتایی را کار اولان من لامایی کتو ماتایی را بعد بودو خور آیا را پنهال فیلم ماجی پارتو کو ماجی ناسکار کانتی ماجی لوجای کندانی علایی را آیا کندادی را بوابری.
After begging for his life, he was thrown into an open yard.
فلادی را بعد مبودی هتو نه هتونو ماجی سافاسی
Myanmar and Bangladesh are separated at their southernmost border by the Naf River. The headquarters of the Rakhine Border Forces, the Nasaka, lies on its banks. Within a month, thousands of refugees crossed here, mostly during the night. The refugees bribed the Nasaka border guards, who are then prepared to allow the Rohingya to flee to Bangladesh. In Mongdor, the clampdown after the Rohingya rioting was brutal. Janat Aras or Rakhine civilians joined the security forces on a rampage.
دوانکل فرادی فلایه دوانور مالکل لودکوری فلایه بیشی بیشی پوشه مالکل تاکا هادار گورا گورا فاینکل گورا گورا میالا فاینکل دل گولی ماری 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 فلایه تدیکی اینو گمانو چانو دانا هورا یار بیکو هده فولوت توله بیکوم فلاشتیک خلا فلاشتیک کل بره بره یار درما فولوت توله فولو ماده کارا فلایه
گاری تو ترا ملیتریو کله لونتینگ له ملیتری له لامادی آنی دوستوکه دیکی ماگوری پره شاتر آتر پره دیکی دی. هر اندیکه گو لایت جلایی دی هر گاری تون اندیکه حالر حسالوی بیریسون نیست داشته اندیکه لاشو کل انگوری ترا دوری گاری روتی مالا ماری هر در هر نیزه آشود دو جنازه هی نتنی انگوری در اندیکه دیکی دان راسوکه دیکی
کتو جلو کویتا لاشو کو
لاش مالی شات کاس آنی
Jamil had witnessed the death of 35 people. They were buried secretly at night. The Myanmar government has set up a commission of inquiry to examine the cause of the violence in June. There are no Rohingya representatives, but one of the investigators is Dr. Raymong. As the country opens to the outside world after decades of isolation, the icon of Myanmar's democracy, Aung San Suu Kyi, has refused to support the right of the Rohingya to citizenship and has remained quiet about their plight. Janat Ara's friends had raised enough money to send her to Bangladesh. She was taken to Chittagong, the country's second city. As a result of her rape, she contracted kidney disease and aborted a pregnancy.
Doramoro era mata ready hospital madai. Zina shining busy niara reda by should go. Tahom point liara can go chundishi.
The continual violence in Rakhine State started spreading to central Burma in March 2013. Brutal killing, burning and destroying of mosques, Muslim-owned houses and businesses took place in the town of Mektila.
After Mektila, the violence spread to the Bago division, to the towns such as Natalin, Memba, Seagull, Okan, and Jobikau. The continual attack event spread all the way to Yangon, resulting in the death of madrasa students of 48th Street Mosque. Surprise attack also in the town of Lashu of Shan State.
Myanmar is a union of more than 100 ethnic groups. 3 decades ago, a law restricted citizenship to groups that lived here before the British invasion. That excluded the Rohingya, whose ancestors mostly arrived during colonial rule. For decades, human rights groups have chronicled abuses committed by the regime in Myanmar. But Al Jazeera's investigation suggests that the treatment of the Rohingya could extend to the most serious crime under international law: genocide.
I'm always cautious about sort of cavalier use of the term, because it does suffer from a great deal of rather extravagant use of the term, precisely because of its potential as a word to get people's attention. But I don't think that there's much difficulty in asserting that in the case of the Rohingya, that we're moving into a zone where the word can be used. When you see measures preventing births, trying to deny the identity of a people, hoping to see that they really are eventually, that they no longer exist, denying their history, denying the legitimacy of their right to live where they live. These are all warning signs that mean that it's not frivolous to envisage the use of the term genocide.
So what do you do with the people? 800,000, maybe more. What do you do with them?
It's a very difficult question. It's a very delicate problem. I know everybody has human rights. Human rights is there. They must have human rights. But sometimes we have to realize that the Constitution and national sovereignty sometimes clash with human rights.
In late 2012, US President Barack Obama traveled to Myanmar to meet his counterpart Thein Sein. Following reforms and the release of political prisoners, Myanmar has been praised for its newfound respect for human rights. It has been largely overlooked that President Thein Sein considers most Rohingya illegal immigrants who should be deported.
I came to see for myself the ongoing humanitarian challenges in Myanmar, where almost 500,000 people are internally displaced and are in need of assistance. I travelled to 8 camps in Rakhine on Wednesday, where I met with people from different communities. In Rakhine, I saw one of the most terrible camps that I have ever visited. Children have been out of school for up to 6 months. The men are not able to provide for their families, and there is a general sense of hopelessness.
The first thing is the importance of reconciliation, really working to bring communities together, and it has to start at the local level, supported by the government. The second thing is that the large numbers of people that I have seen in camps, 78,000 Rohingya here in Sitwe, thousands more in the northern part of the state, in very difficult conditions, poor sanitation, cooped up because of the fear of the security situation, and the only way we can deal with it is by a partnership with the government and the United Nations. And I would like the government to give us access, to let us do the job that we know we can do.
We need the political leaders at all levels in Myanmar to support the important humanitarian work being done by the United Nations and our partners.
Food, healthcare, crucially with water and sanitation. This is the job that we would like to do, and we'd like to be able to improve on what we've been able to do so far.
Our job is to give support and help to the people who are most in need.
The UN's human rights envoy to Burma has slammed the government for failing to protect him during a tour of riot-hit Mekdila. Thomas Quintana was touring the regions hit by religious violence in the country when his convoy came under attack. He says a mob of 200 people surrounded his vehicle, kicking the windows as he tried to visit a displacement camp for Muslims.
I want to tell you that the fear that I felt during this
He says a mob of 200 people surrounded his vehicle, kicking the windows as he tried to visit a displacement camp for Muslims.
I want to tell you that the fear that I felt during this incident, being left totally unprotected by the nearby police, gave me an insight into the fear residents would have felt when being chased down by the violent mobs during the violence last March.
He was then forced to abandon his visit to the camp due to security concerns.
I must highlight the obligation of the government of Myanmar to act immediately to control violent mobs running riots in communities and protect all people regardless of the religion or ethnicity.
Quintana's trip has been marred by violence as he toured Arakan State last week. 2 people died in a clash at a Rohingya displacement camp. He says that although the police have taken charge of security in Arakan State, serious security concerns remained.
I have received many serious allegations of the disproportionate use of force in dealing with large crowds of Muslim protesters.
A deep sense of distrust between Muslims, Buddhists and the security forces still pervades Arakan State and much of central Burma.
I have continued to receive allegations of serious human rights violations being committed during this police operation, which also involved Rakhine mobs, including allegations of the brutal killing of men, women and children, sexual violence against women, and the looting and burning of property. If the President's recently established investigation commission on nuclear TAN fails to carry out an investigation that meets international standards, I will urge the United Nations Human Rights Council to work with the government of Myanmar to establish a credible investigation to uncover the truth of what happened in nuclear TAN.
we've found is the government and Arakanese communities involved in ethnic cleansing, crimes against humanity, against the Rohingya Muslims. We're seeing the logical extension of this policy, which is increased humanitarian isolation of these Rohingya into this string of ghettoized IDP camps, weeks before the monsoon starts, with inadequate food, inadequate medical services, and essentially in a flood zone where they're going to be deluged in a matter of weeks. I mean, we can't accept what is essentially a movement towards an apartheid system where you have these Rohingya essentially living in sort of Bantustans, separated from the economic heartbeat of Arakan state.
Along the waterways of the Bay of Bengal, conflict and persecution scar Myanmar's moves towards democracy. To reach Chenyepin, it's a 2-hour journey by boat. The camp is home to 4,000 Rohingya Muslims who fled Buddhist attacks 3 years ago. On our way, we pass a man tending the grave of his 2-month-old baby boy. 7 children have died here in the last month. None of them saw a doctor. This is why 2 months ago Buddhist mobs violently attacked international aid agencies in the state capital, Sitwe. Offices were ransacked and those providing healthcare to the Rohingya forced to leave. That means there are now tens of thousands of Muslims like Arabana without access to medical help. She's in so much pain she can no longer walk. I want to be treated, she says, but I'm scared if I'm taken to hospital, the Buddhists will attack me. Across camp, we hear similar stories. There have been only 3 visits from Burmese government doctors since the aid agencies left, and no one trusts Buddhists to transfer them safely to hospital.
What's happening here isn't being dictated by the central Burmese government, but by the local Rakhine Buddhist community. It's them who are stopping these Muslim Rohingya leaving from the camps, and it's them who are stopping aid agencies bringing healthcare in. In the past, the Burmese government would have simply acted decisively and forced their will on the people. Now, they say they're powerless to act.
The Rakhine Buddhists are one of many Burmese minorities worried about their place in a country emerging from decades of military rule. At this village, the fishermen tell me that they should be receiving aid, not the Rohingya, who they say have come here illegally from Bangladesh. Back in a Rohingya camp near Sitwe, there's no one with medical training, but if you're desperate and you've got money, you visit this little shack. One of today's patients is a painfully thin 2-month-old baby boy called Mama Rohin. He's given rehydration fluids, but his needs are clearly much greater. We suffer and we die. That is our fate, his mum tells me. There are those who are calling what's happening here a slow-burning genocide, others ethnic cleansing. Whatever words you choose, this is a human tragedy. People trapped in camps, dying and denied the most basic of rights. Jonah Fisher, BBC News, Rakhine State, Myanmar.
Instead of protecting the victims during the violence, the Burmese army forcefully drove out hundreds of thousands of Rohingyas from their homes. The Burmese government carried out forceful mass relocation of Rohingyas to IDP camps where almost all basic human needs were denied. Leaving everything, children, the elderly, men and women were forced to go on foot to the camps, which are miles away from their homes. More than 140,000 Rohingyas are currently trapped in those camps with no hope of returning, and their destiny is fading.